Buddhism Core Episode 4. Everyone glows up in Dharma. Today, 15 July 2020. The Dharma that the Lord Buddha wanted to express for us to know, for us to see, and for us to understand. It was what the Lord Buddha had already revealed. The Lord Buddha had already been seen. The Lord Buddha had already arisen in the Lord Buddha's mind. All the practices that the Lord Buddha had tried, he tried and wrong, he tried and right, he tried until he barely survived. The Lord Buddha tried fasting. The Lord Buddha tried to practice perseverance. That what he has gained is a great happiness, but suffering is as much as happiness is received. The more happiness, suffering increased accordingly, because the mind has not yet escaped. The mind is still in the refined world. The mind is still flowing with the manipulations of the mind. At that time, the Lord Buddha still didn't know. He only wanted happiness so that he would not suffer anymore. The Lord Buddha sought a method until he reached the highest level of jhana, that is called arupachan. But the Lord Buddha still could not quench his suffering. While in meditation there is no manipulation and no suffering. The Lord Buddha had only happiness. But after coming out of the jhana, the mind is released from meditation. The mind was restored as before. The mind still has a feeling, has the emotion, has manipulations as before. Suffering is more subtle than ever. Just like a coin, there are heads and tails. Heads and tails belong together. When there is heads, there is tails. When there is happiness, there is suffering. The happier you are, the more suffering you have. Like we have a love for someone. When we are in love, then we are immensely happy. But when do we have the disappointment of love, we will hate each other immensely too. The more we love, the more we hate. Love and hate go hand in hand, inseparable from each other. Like a coin, when we pick up a coin, what we get is the heads side of a coin or the tails side of a coin. We cannot just take the heads side only. We must also get the tails side too. Like happiness and suffering, they belong together, inseparable from each other. The Lord Buddha practiced asceticism in hopes of getting out of suffering. The Lord Buddha wanted only happiness during that time. The Lord Buddha tried to be only happy forever. But when the mind is released from meditation, his mind has been thought as usual. Suffering again as usual. The Lord Buddha came up with so many different methods that he could hardly survive. In the end, the Lord Buddha returned happiness to suffering. It means that the Lord Buddha didn't need happiness anymore. The Lord Buddha didn't care about happiness anymore. The Lord Buddha considered this happiness, knowing that this happiness is only what is a known thing that occurs according to many causes which cannot be controlled. When the Lord Buddha knew this happiness is just a known thing, at that moment the Lord Buddha gave back this happiness. The Lord Buddha left this happiness and didn't hold on to this happiness anymore. The Lord Buddha attained enlightenment to be the Buddha at that time. The Lord Buddha saw in his heart that happiness and suffering are one and the same. They are inseparable from each other. When the Lord Buddha attained enlightenment completely, the Lord Buddha had revealed in his mind that actually his mind was already enlightened. His mind is already pure, never have defilements, never have merits, and never have a sin. It is nature that predates all things. Since when has this nature been there? This nature has been since no time on this earth. The mind has already existed. This nature is the mind. The mind is that nature. The mind is a natural knower, or some teacher called the Dharma element, or in Thai we call That Ru. This nature has gone beyond manipulations. No manipulations are able to live in this nature. This nature cannot be manipulated. This nature is the origin of everything. All things are created because of this nature, that is the mind. I am explaining for us to understand, but I don't know how much of the knowledge which the listener can understand, because I don't have any pictures to show anyone. You shouldn't think or imagine by using the brain. What is the mind look like? It's like I am only able to speak. The mind is approximate like this. Whoever can be manifest, understood, and attainable from the heart is the one who has been enlightened in the Dharma, is the Arahant only. Therefore, our practice must be dedicated to attain this Dharma. This Dharma is the mind, is not someone else's mind, is our mind. You do not need to go in search of Dharma outside the mind. Dharma exists in the mind. Dharma practice is the practice in the mind. Because of this mind, when he knew the truth, he will let go of everything from his mind. No, we are the ones who let go. We cannot let go of anything, because our being or ourself is an action or behavior of the mind that we call Citta Sankhan. The real mind is also known as the original mind. The real mind or the original mind is the natural knower. Sometimes we call That Ru. It is nature that predates all things. It is the origin of all things. Like the water is the source. Water looks like the mind. The nature of water is constantly changing and fluctuating, which are known as waves. Waves are the behavior of water. Citta Sankhan looks like a wave. Citta Sankhan is the action of the mind. It is a natural manipulation. Citta Sankhan is no shape and no self. Yes, Citta Sankhan create the story to shape, to give value, to give meaning, and to draw conclusion of everything. Decide whether you like or you dislike. Add the story of like or dislike more and more. Then we flow in the thoughts and emotions created by Citta Sankhan that creates our ego and ourself. This is our life, this is our wife, this is our house, this is our car, this is our country, etc. Citta Sankhan is the concocted mind created by our thoughts. It's our mood. This is Citta Sankhan, that is the action of the mind. Is not concocted from the brain, is not produced from any part of the body. Even if we have a brain, if we don't have a mind, like someone pulls the mind out of the body could not think of anything. It's no different from stumps and stones. Even with the eyes, you couldn't see anything. Even with the nose, you couldn't smell anything. Even with the ears, you couldn't hear anything. Even with a mouth, put food in the mouth, or with the tongue to taste, the body cannot taste anything because there is no mind in the body. Or even with the body, someone cuts and stabs with a knife. That body doesn't know anything at all. The body without the mind doesn't know anything. Summarizing, and that the body and the mind are not related to each other. They are separable, separated from each other. The physical body is analogous as if it does not exist. The body is known by the natural knower that we call the mind or Tatru. The body is just an elemental object that is used in the world. The body is the natural element that exists in the world. Although you have the body, but you do not have a mind. The brain cannot think by itself. We have to understand this issue, that it can be an alive body because there is the mind works in the body. The mind sends a signal through this body, conveys it, speaks it out. Let's humans live together. Interaction happy, talking peacefully. That's all. Therefore, this mind is the goal. This is the core that we must reach. That is, we have to learn our own mind. We have to understand our own minds. This is the point. We must not seek the Dharma from outside the mind. Dharma exists only in the mind. 84,000 Dhammakan exists only in the mind, not in the textbook. Whoever wants to achieve enlightenment in the Dharma of the Buddha, you must find the Dharma in the mind, study the Dharma in the mind, and understand the Dharma in the mind. For the next tape, I will talk about learning the mind, watching the mind. How does the mind come to be born and come to be dead? Why does the mind cycle through birth and death? Why is the mind not born? How does the mind not be born? How do you know that the mind is no longer born? Whoever looks at the mind, sees the mind, clarifies the understanding of the mind. That person will know by the individual person. The Buddha preached the Dharma to the animal world to know accordingly. At the first time of the Buddha attained enlightenment, the Buddha considered how to teach this Dharma to the animal world, because the Dharma that the Buddha knows is not the nature of the animal world to know easily. Either way is the easiest, because this Dharma is always with us. We live in this nature all the time. There is not a second that this nature is not with us at all. This nature is with us all the time. The Dharma is this nature, and this nature is the mind. The mind is with us all the time. We rely on our minds all the time in making a living, in interactions with the people in the society. The cycle of birth and death was born in the three realms of the world by relying on the mind as a base. The mind is the origin. All hell beings have a mind. Angels and Brahmas also have a mind. All animals have a mind too. But these minds are still getting lost, not an enlightened mind like the Buddha. Therefore, the Buddha, after his enlightenment, the Buddha brought this knowledge to teach the animal world, to teach only those who are wise first, because the Buddha considered that all humans in this world cannot teach everyone, because most humans are still lost in form, lost in sound, lost in smell, lost in taste, lost in touch, and lost into thoughts and emotions. Humans are deceived in a form when their eyes see a form. Humans are deceived in a smell when their nose smell. Humans are deceived in the sound when their ears hear the sound. Following with what is known. That's why humans are lost in this kind of deception and take it as us, belongs to us, is to have an existence, be an ego. After the Buddha considered that the one who was easiest to understand was the wise man who had wisdom, the Buddha went in search of the wise man who would be easy to understand. The Buddha taught easily, simply without the need for any principles. After the Buddha spoke to the wise man, as soon as the wise man could understand the mind, the wise man immediately attained to the Dharma. In the Buddha's time, the Buddha spoke to 1,000 people, or sometimes 500 people. These people sat and paid attention to listen to the Dharma from the Buddha. They immediately attained enlightenment. The people who sat and listened were farmers, were villagers. Yes, they are men and women just like us, not different from us. There is no more prestige. But these farmers or these villagers who sat and listened to the Buddha were willing to listen intently. How is the mind? How does the mind work? What is the cause of birth and death? Why are we suffering? How can we get out of suffering? How to get out of the cycle of birth and death? The answer is the practice in the mind, awareness of the mind, learning and understanding the mind. When the listener listens and understands, then observes his own mind, then he felt himself that now I have a feeling of concoction. I have that mood while listening to this Dharma. I know that I am listening to the sound. I feel that I am knowing this is a practice down the mind. When someone listens to this Dharma and realize that they are contemplating it as well, understanding and seeing that you are understanding. Understanding is something our mind is feeling. If we can see this feeling, we will see one's own mind to feel that way, think that way, think this way. If it can be seen, it is called practice in the mind. When the listener has heard, has seen your own mind and has understood the Dharma that has been listened to and has observed one's own mind as well, understand one's mind, it is like the Dharma that the Lord Buddha has preached. The minds of those people suddenly explode, light up to attain enlightenment as noble ones, such as Sodaban, Sakithakami, Anakami, and Arahant. They become noble ones. This was in the Buddha's time like this, which was to say only to understand, and then the listeners attain enlightenment. Nowadays, there is like this. When the listener listens intently, the speakers preach the Dharma to the listener's mind. The mind of the listeners bows down to the own mind and see yourself, see the work of one's mind, seeing the impermanence of one mind, of one own mind that is changing and occurring according to a cause according to the factors and be extinguished because of all the factors. There are variants, changes, and improvements all the time. Seeing the likeness of the mind all the time, that is, to see it as something that is known, when seen frequently, come to understand and carry seen in the mind. At that moment, a bright mind emerge, put an end to doubt in your own mind, putting everything down, like the whole world, it dissolved before my eyes. A bright mind is like that. The knowledge and understanding that the mind has known and understood, everything has dissolved completely gone from the mind. The mind is left with pure knowledge of nature. The mind is perfect all the time, naturally manipulated, or we call Citta Sankhara, is shattered from the mind. Here, that mind became an Arahant. The words Sodaban, Sakitagami, Anagami, and Arahant are all fictitious language to tell where it is now. But when the actual practice has achieved the enlightenment, the mind will not say what it is. It only knows how many times of rebirth are left now, knowing that there is still left not yet finished, knowing that the mind is close to not being born anew until he realized that the mind will not be born again. It was evident that why is the mind born? Why does the mind not arise? So how is your mind now? The mind is born and knows. The mind is not born and knows. Realizing that the mind is liberated, not born, the mind is already an Arahant. It is the end of the passion itself, finished from all the evils, is that the mind is freed from the power of Citta Sankhara, freed from the power of refined thoughts. This is the mind that is freed from Citta Sankhara. Therefore, the present is the same. The attainment of enlightenment is attained through listening. This is the easiest and most convenient way. There are 5 types of enlightenment. The first type is the easiest, the fastest, and the best way of enlightenment. It is listening to the Dharma. Listening to the Dharma, listen carefully, pay attention to listen from heart to heart. Don't just listen by using your ear organ. Don't just listen by using your brain only. Listening with the mind is bowing down to the mind, bowing down to the heart. Then observe in the heart whether it is what the Dharma voice says, and understand your own mind when listening to the Dharma and observing one's own mind, listening to, observing the mind too. Observing the mental condition that the mind is concocted by Citta Sankhara, the mind is contemplated by Citta Sankhara, the mind is varied by Citta Sankhara, the mind is talked by Citta Sankhara. The mind has produced the emotions by Citta Sankhara all the time. Citta Sankhara is the maker of the merit. Citta Sankhara is the maker of the sin. Citta Sankhara is the maker of the positive. Citta Sankhara is the maker of the negative. Citta Sankhara is continually cooking our heart, our mind all the time, listening to the Dharma and observing the mind at the same time, realizing that you are listening to the Dharma and you are seeing the symptoms that the mind is concocting with. This is called, at that time, will be the path is born, is the attainment of enlightenment. This enlightenment of Dharma, number 1, is that listening to the Dharma is the base, the easiest, and the most convenient. Therefore, I would only talk about the mind, show how the mind works, and then we try to understand and settle down in our minds. Listen and observe our minds as well. While we are observing the mind, seeing the mind, we will attain enlightenment. Therefore, listening to the Dharma is the first point the Buddha emphasizes. This is the most important point. Listening to the Dharma leads to the attainment of the Dharma. The second type of enlightenment, if anyone who listens to the Dharma still cannot understand and cannot attain enlightenment, he will remember the story of the Dharma that he has heard. He will remember the Dharma and try to consider and try to understand the Dharma, and then he will take the Dharma that he has been heard to speak and teach other people, such as teach his friends. While he is teaching his friends to listen to him, he is also trying to understand the Dharma that he is speaking with his friends at the same time. Teach friends, teach relatives, teaching brothers, teach fathers, teach mothers, teach them to understand the Dharma. While he is teaching, he also listens to and considers the Dharma that is speaking at the same time. He tries to understand the Dharma while teaching and while speaking. This is the reason for attaining Dharma. Therefore, number 2 is a matter of teaching the Dharma. But a person who can teach the Dharma must remember story that the Dharma has shown, remembering the accurate Dharma. While teaching the accurate Dharma, considering the accurate Dharma to settle in the heart at the same time. This is also the reason for attaining Dharma. This is the second item. Item 1 is the easiest. Item 2 is inferior. And both item 1 and item 2 are also the reason for attaining Dharma. The third type of enlightenment, after we teach the Dharma as well, we try to understand the Dharma as well, but we still do not attain the enlightenment. This is the reason for the attainment for the Dharma, item 3. The third type of enlightenment is to consider the Dharma that we have been heard, consider understanding the Dharma as well, and settle down into the mind as well, observe the mind as well, and consider understanding the mind as well, and settle down into the mind as well. This is called Yoso Manasikan. While we Yoso Manasikan the Dharma, this cause leads us to attain the enlightenment. This is the attainment of Dharma, item 3. That's number 1 of how to achieve enlightenment. The easiest is to just listen to the Dharma and observe the mind. If you understand the mind, you can achieve enlightenment. If your wisdom is still weak, remember as much as you can and teach your loved ones. Tell your father, tell your mother, tell your brother, tell your sister, tell your children. While you are teaching them to the Dharma, you try to understand the Dharma as well. Understand before speaking each word. Understand and then speak. Understand and then speak. This is the reason why you will attain the Dharma while you are teaching the Dharma. The third type of enlightenment is a matter of understanding the Dharma only. Understanding the Dharma means you consider the Dharma and you try to understand the Dharma that you have heard, contemplating the Dharma that you have heard by yourself again and again, understanding the mind, observing the mind, understanding the mind, observing the mind, understanding the mind. In this way is called Yoniso Dhamma or Yoniso Manasikan. This is a reason for the attainment of enlightenment. Understanding the mind is very important. You have to practice this a lot and try to understand the Dharma that has been heard. The fourth type of enlightenment is that after we have Yoniso Dhamma or Yoniso Manasikan already, but it is still incomprehensible. So we recite the Dharma, we shout the Dharma loudly, reciting the Dharma that we remember from we have heard, reciting alone, reciting loudly like reciting a mantra. During the Buddha's time, Indian people recited the mantra that was the Dharma. Whatever the Buddha taught, they recited, and they recited. Due to a lack of their intelligence, instead of thinking in their mind or understanding in their mind only, they chose to recite the Dharma loudly again and again. This is the reason for understanding the Dharma and attaining enlightenment. This is called reciting the Dharma chants, or in the Thai language we call Suat Mon. The Indians used to pray before, that is, they recite the Dharma in Pali, because Pali is a kind of language which is used by the Indians at that time. But at this time, we recite the Dharma chants in the Pali language, and we cannot understand the meaning of the Dharma chants. Thai people become addicted to the form and the grammar of the Pali language. Reciting the Dharma chants or Suat Mon means speaking Dharma in your own language loudly for teaching yourself and reminding yourself. This is the real reciting the Dharma chants, or the real Suat Mon. Attaining Dharma, there are 5 items, 4 of which have been said. The 5th type of the enlightenment is the last one for people with very, very little intelligence, because doing item 1 to item 4 and still don't understand the Dharma. Item 5 is the Dharma practice, such as practice sitting meditation, practice walking meditation, and practice keeping 5 precepts. Go to a quiet place, meditate, train your mind to meditate first. Practice in peace, that is, when the mind is at peace, the mind is secluded, the mind is calm, and the mind is not highly manipulated. When the mind is less distracted, the mind became more peaceful. When there is more peace, wisdom has begun getting smarter. The mind was more concentrated. Listening to the Dharma is easier than before. We didn't understand anything. When we meditate, be in peace, we start listening to the Dharma to be easier understanding. This is how to attain Dharma. Number 5 is for people with very, very little wisdom. So the easiest is to listen to the Dharma and observe the mind. Understanding the mind is the more convenient way than your Niso understands and listen often. Listen to your Niso. While listening, we also look at our minds. This is what Luang Pi said. Oh, the mind works like this. We also look at our minds. Oh, how is our mind thinking and manipulating? How is it? Luang Pi talks about the contemplation in the mind. We also observe the contemplating in the mind too, even though we are saying in our minds how we think, how to contemplate the mind. The word how do you think and how to contemplate the mind is the idea that we have in our minds. We thought, how do you think and how to contemplate the mind? The words, how do you think and how to contemplate the mind? This is what we are thinking. Well, if we see that we are thinking this way, then we will understand, oh, this is an idea. It will import a light to emerge in the mind. The mind has never seen itself think. It only flows with thoughts. So we don't understand the mind. So the mind cannot let go of anything. When the mind sees the truth, seeing that it is suffering, this is the cause of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, this is the practice of ending suffering, just seeing these manipulations in the mind, that's all. When the mind sees the truth, the mind will drop. The mind will see that this is the cause of everything that we cycle through birth and death, the cause of our suffering. The mind will set itself now. This is what is known as the liberating mind. Nobody liberates the mind. The mind will liberate itself. There are only 5 principles here. This tape will run out of time. Well, the next tape will focus on mental viewing, understanding the mind. Drawn in the Dharma, all relatives. Well, this tape is the 3rd tape of the 15th. This tape recording of is still now. Still forget. I am still now. I am still forget to praise it in time. Maybe I am new and not yet proficient. Teaching the Dharma, teaching to relatives that I have taught quite a lot, but because it never record, I don't think that I can speak. I can record. Will the tape be good? Would it be appropriate? But when I started recording, I started to learn, I began to know that I should say something like this. Most of the tape listeners have a problem or don't understand why is it. What should I say? It is the homework that must be considered, because there are many listeners, hundreds of fathers, thousands of mothers, hundreds of minds, thousands of minds. The nature of each mind is not the same. The intelligence of the mind is called wisdom or panyayana. The wisdom of each mind is not the same too. The intelligence of the mind is not the same. Therefore, I will try to speak from the beginning, the cause and the source, then speaking leads into the mind, so that we may return to look at our own minds. We do not have to go in search of Dharma outside the mind. We travel to see the Dharma over there, here, some abroad, in that province, in this province, run for teachers, and in the end, we still don't know the Dharma and see the Dharma. We still cannot figure out what Dharma is. Whoever sees the Dharma, he shows me the Tathagata. How do you see the Dharma? Knowing the truth in the Dharma. How does it know how to achieve enlightenment? How to get out of suffering? Letting go. How to let go? We still don't know. We haven't caught anything yet. It's been 10 years. It's been 20 years, it means 30 years ago. Some of them are from childhood to old age, dedicated to the Dharma, but in the end, I still don't know anything. I'm still unable to grasp anything. This is sending the mind outside. When sending the mind outside, we will not know the Dharma and we will not see the Dharma. We cannot know the Dharma, cannot see the Dharma, because we are dragged outside by Citta Sankhara all the time. Citta Sankhara drag us out through the eyes, ears, nose, tongues, and body, and we come lost in the heart to enhance Dhamma Arom, the emotions that we will continue to be lost here again. Therefore, I will focus on bringing the mind back to its original nature. I call it counter current. Dhamma must go against the current, return the original nature, does not flow, does not send a current to the world through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. Understand? Mind is Dhamma. Dhamma is mind. Who wants to know the Dhamma, know the mind. Our Dhamma, 84,000 Dhammakhanda, the Dhamma Khanda speaks of the mind. All Dharma does not talk about anything else. Many ways to say the Dharma because the intelligence of each person is not the same. Each person's infatuation is not the same. Therefore, it is necessary to speak in different ways in order to satisfy each person's mind. If anyone can be satisfied, they will be able to understand the Dharma. But if anyone listens and has not yet achieved, it shows that way is not suitable for them. I have to find a way, many ways, to speak in different ways. The Buddha himself found a way to speak in different ways, 84,000 ways, in order to pursue those who are lost in the 84 ways. They find the Dharma that is suitable for themselves, and they be able to attain the Dharma. The Buddha, His Highness, is very tired of teaching the animal world. All teachers who have attained the Dharma are tired. All teachers are very tired of teaching the animal world. All teachers are very tired of teaching the students. Teaching every day, every month, passing days, passing months, passing years, until 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. All teachers taught only the same things, but the student rarely knew the Dharma and saw the Dharma according to the teachers. So the teachers still have to be tried, because the duty of a person who is attained in the Dharma is only to teach the Dharma that has been enlightened to the animal world and let them know accordingly in order to get out of the cycle of birth and death. All teachers did not expect that if they do it, they will get merit. All teachers don't want merit. All teachers know that merit and sin are the same things, because there is merit to have sin, because there is a sin to have merit. It's a manipulation that the mind has created by itself. Not to talk about it, let's talk about Demise Practice. The reason why our minds suffer, the reason why our minds revolve around birth and death. Let's talk about suffering first. Our suffering, we understand that our suffering is unsatisfactory. We understand that our suffering is unwelcome. It means that when we want something, it's not what we want, so we suffer. Suffering like this doesn't really exist. When we get what we want, we are happy. When we don't like it, we suffer. This issue is just this. Both the satisfied and the unsatisfied are the manipulations that the mind has created, which are called citta sankhara. It is created because it flows into citta sankhara through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. When we see that and we want it, when we don't get it, we suffer. This is happiness and unhappiness. Satisfied and unsatisfied go hand in hand. It is a natural duality that citta sankhara is concocted. Citta sankhara will always be concocted a couple things. Citta sankhara will not concoct a one-side Dharma. One-side Dharma that does not have a pair is the mind. The mind naturally knows no pair, no couple, inexplicable, can't speak in any language, no happiness, no suffering, no merit, no sin, no charity, no sorrow, above the cause and above the effect, is all over, is out of these things. It's not happiness or sorrow. Happiness and sorrow, sin and merit are a matter of the world. It's about the three realms of the world for living together in order to live in peace and happiness. But being a noble person, talking about the Arahant is the mind, but being Arahant is not about merit or sin. A noble person is no longer about merit or sin too. They will come out from merit and sin. The noble person is not completely freed until the ends of the Arahant. Arahant comes to judge, put an end to all doubts. the Arahants see in the mind theory that merit and sin, good and bad, are used in the world. It is Citta Sankhan, not a mind. Citta Sankhan is a known thing that Citta Sankhan is outside the mind. And Citta Sankhan is a behavior of the mind. This is like this. Therefore, the suffering that has been said is understood by the world as a matter of desire. Wanting only desire. When there is wealth, you want more and more wealth. Doesn't want the deterioration of wealth. When you have rank, you want more and more rank. Doesn't want the deterioration of rank. When there is appreciation, more and more appreciation is desire. Doesn't want the deterioration of the appreciation. When I'm happy, I want more happiness. Suffering doesn't want. This is the 8 worldly Dharma, which is what the 3 world elemental realms reside. There is wealth and the deterioration of wealth, rank and the deterioration of rank, the appreciation and the deterioration of the appreciation, happiness and suffering. These are 8 things, 4 of them belonging to pairs that the world is infatuated with, searching for each other in the 3 realms of the world, seeking these things. Even Brahma only seeks happiness. Brahma does not want to suffer, and they share it that happiness. So they were born as Brahma, whereas at the stage of deep meditation, this is what they call happiness. They want to escape from suffering, but Brahma doesn't know that happiness and suffering depend on each other. Happiness and suffering, they stay together. Suffering has never gone away. Suffering and happiness are always together, never parted. They cannot be separated from each other like a coin. Heads and tails are inseparable. This is a matter of suffering. But the real suffering that the Buddha wants to teach is the real suffering that is called Dukkha. Dukkha is the 4th truth. Practice Dharma to know the truth is to see the truth, know the truth. To see the mind is to actually know what is the mind is creating. I know as it is. What does it show? What does it enhance? What kind of mood does it have? Left side or right side? Positive side or negative side? Is garnished on each other's side, and I know, I see, I know, I don't interfere, I don't intervene. When anger arises, I know it. When happiness arises, I know it, not take possession. When charity happens, I know it, not take possession. When sin happens, I know it, not take possession. That is no attempt to do anything, to get anything. Support. Anger arises, anger arises according to the factors to the cause. When the cause is gone, the factors are gone. The anger is gone too. I know this. Just know, the anger happened because there was a factor, there was a cause that the anger was born. The anger is gone. When the anger is gone, all factors and all causes are gone too. I know this. When happy time, happiness has a reason for this kind of feeling to happen. I know this. When the feeling called happiness is gone, I know that. All causes and all factors of happiness are gone too. This is called knowing the truth. What does the mind think or value? I know what it thinks. Support that you are sitting at your home and you are thinking in the mind. My son go to school today. How is him today? Has he turned off the mask or not? Will my son be infected? Because recently the COVID-19 epidemic is back again. Can't you see that you are sitting here thinking like this? If you see that you are sitting and thinking like this, that what is known as knowing the truth, even though the sun is not with you, right? You miss the sun. Create your sun in the image in your mind. In the mind, there is the look of your sun. There's a mask in your sun's mouth, and there's a picture of a mask coming out of your sun's mouth. Then the sun wears the school uniform. That is what you have created as a vision. Then you sit and comprehend alone in your mind. Do you feel that you are thinking this way? This is the vision. This is Citta Sankhan. That is contemplates. When we flow with Citta Sankhan, or the thoughts or the emotion will make happiness and suffering for us. You are suffering and straight because you are afraid that the sun will not wear a mask, even though you are just sitting at home, but you have created suffering. Therefore, when we see our own minds, see the truth, we will see the truth suffering. The Buddha gave the knowledge to see the truth, Tukasat. I am talking about Tukasat. Tukasat is the full truth. Know the suffering, know the cause of suffering, know the end of suffering, and know how to reach the cessation of suffering. Knowing suffering means knowing that Citta Sankhan is manipulated in the mind. Citta Sankhan is impermanent. Citta Sankhan is constantly changing. Citta Sankhan cannot stand in that condition. The emotion is the same. This is called suffering. Suffering is a known thing. Suffering cannot stand in that condition. Suffering is variance, change all the time. In other words, it is in the law of Tairak, the law of nature. That is, it is impermanent, suffering, and anatta, or we call selfless or no self. The word Tukasat means to combine it like this. It includes all known things. All of them are impermanent, suffering, non-self. This is called seeing Tukasat. Know the cause of Tukasat. Tukasat being unstable and change all the time. Know where Tukasat came from. Tukasat came from the upside down of the truth that we call avijja. Avijja is the ignorance that the mind flows to brain with Citta Sankhan. Come to see the cause of it. But you have to look at your mind to see it, to see the mind continually until you understand the cause of it. Is ignorance is the upside down that we call avijja. And how to practice to reach the cessation of suffering. That is, we know and see our minds. When we see the mind as mindfulness, or we call sati, satipatthana, or four foundations of mindfulness as a cause, we know our own minds. When we see our own minds, we will see the fact. This is the way to end suffering, the way to out of that refinement, the way to out of that sorrow. Seeing the mind as a base of mindfulness, seeing the mind release to liberation. Nirod is liberation. When we see that liberation is like this, we will know that the Four Noble Truths, Ariya Satsi, is to know the truth. Knowing the truth is the point of today. Thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you in the next episode. สวัสดีครับ